What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the TCG Empire YouTube channel. Today we are taking a look at Zoroark and Friends. If you guys aren't sure what this deck is, it's where you use Zoroark with the Phantom Transformation ability. Phantom Transformation says once during your turn, you may choose a Stage 1 Pokemon except Zoroark from your discard pile. If you do, you discard this Pokemon and all cards attached to it, and you put the chosen Pokemon in its place. So basically, you can switch Zoroark out for any other Stage 2, which means that the only Evo lines you have to worry about are getting Zoroark out, and then after that, you can get any of the evolutions out that you need. So paired with this, this is Andrew Mahone's list. I just wanted to showcase it because I think that he is smart in how he builds it, and I think this is the most optimal way to play it, so I thought I would share the list. So some of the attackers we have is the Scovillain. Scovillain has the ability as a grass type attacker to where if this Pokemon has any fire energy attached to it, it does 90 more damage. It costs a grass and 2 colorless, and you're probably wondering, how do you set any of this stuff up? Well, you do play Reversal Energy. Reversal Energy allows you to have basically 3 rainbow as long as you are behind on prizes. And when you are not, you are playing Jet Energy, just so that way you gain the ability to actually swing with some alternate attackers like Flapple, which is really good against Gardevoir, as you have the Acidic Mucus, which does 50x for each of your opponent's Pokemon in play that has an ability. It's also really good against Lugia. Speaking of Lugia, we have Raichu with the Ambushing Spark that does 40 plus 100 more if your opponent has used a V-Star power. And we also have Electivire with the High Voltage Current. Does 50 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon, so it's super solid. And we also have a unique card with Slowbro. Slowbro has the Twilight Inspiration attack, where if you have more prizes than your opponent remaining, you attach Reversal to it to fulfill the 2 energy requirement. And basically, with Twilight, you just win the game. Because you're a 1-prizer deck, your opponent goes down to 1 prize. You set up to where you're at 2, you use Twilight Inspiration, and if your opponent has 1 prize card remaining, you just get to take 2 prize cards, so it's super, super solid. And then we also have Mightyena, which is your Mew counter, because it does cost no energy to deal 320 against Mew. And it's just, this deck is very fun. We also have the Hisuian Basculin, just for Gather the Crew. It's really, what you can sack off if you're forced to go second, and it helps you set up so that way you can use reversals. And to pair with all of that, we are using the Kirlia engine once again for refinement to get some of these cards in the discard. I won't go into the full breakdown of the list. Overall, though, it's just basically about being able to choose what matchups you want to go against, and Zoroark being able to set those up. So, as always, the deck list will be posted right here, so you guys have a full, clean view of it. And the description will also be... it will also have the deck list so that you guys can copy and paste it into Pokemon Trading Card Game Live. I will say, I'm sorry for not uploading yesterday. I just had a very long day, and I didn't sleep too great, so I was very exhausted. So, when you guys see this video, do me a favor, smash the like button, subscribe if you did enjoy today's video. And with that being said, if you want some hoodies, let me know down below, and I'll get that started. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys in the gameplay. Later. Alrighty, guys. Into the very first game with Zoroark. Hopefully not going to be too bad. The only biggest issue that we really have to run into is something like Lost City. So hopefully my opponent's not playing Lost City, and we do get the option to go first, which means that we can just kind of control our board the best that we can. Go from there. And, ooh, that is a rough start for sure. Thankfully, my opponent mulligans, so we might be able to find something. And we are playing against Charizard. So, let's see. Against Charizard, the biggest thing that we're going to have to use is probably the Flapple, because it can deal 2 shots to Charizard. So, my opponent's going to be able to trade 2 for 2, but we're going to have to kind of see what we can do. My opponent does start Entei, which is good. And we do start double Nest Ball, which is huge, because what this means is that we can go Nest Ball. I could attach Retreat, that way I can go into the Basculin, which I don't hate. So let's see what's prized real quick. So we have Flapple, we have Electivire, we have the Arcanine, we have Raichu. Okay, so nothing of like high importance is prized. and the Flapple does do 50x, so we are going to be able to kind of hit some good damage. So we'll grab the Basculin here, and then we'll also go Nest Ball. We'll grab a Ralts. I think we're okay, because what we can do next turn is evolve and go into the Curlia. We can switch. We might be able to start dealing some damage, and depending on what my opponent does, we'll be in an okay spot. The reason I went for the Basculin is just so that way I can attach retreat, give my opponent a prize, and it's not something that I'm really wanting to lose. Or I'm not like not wanting to lose. It's not a main attacker, and the gather the crew means that we can just kind of set up the bench how we need to. So Battle VIP pass coming down. Grabbing Mew and Pidgey. So we are doing 100 damage so far with the Flapple. And there's Escape Rope. So Escape Rope, we'll just bring up the Basculin, just so that way we don't have to worry about it. There's the Mysterious Tail coming down. A Nest Ball. Getting Charmander. And there's Iono. So Iono hurts a little bit. But it's not like the worst. We just had some, decent things in our hand. But thankfully, we actually have some more decent cards to work with here. So we have access to Level Ball. We have access to Zoroark. We have Pokemon League headquarters. We have a lot of what we could ask for right now. So the first thing we'll do is Level Ball. So Level Ball can grab us the Curlia, just so we have a few more cards to draw. Can evolve into Zoroark here. And go Curlia. Curlia will allow us to discard the Raichu. Can draw 2. And then we also have the Arazu if we need to. And I actually don't hate possibly using that next turn. Let's see. I think what we'll do is we'll use it. That way we can just kind of start to discard some of the Pokemon that, we don't really need anymore. Mightyana's not going to be useful here. The Electivire could be, because it does do the 50x, and if my opponent doesn't get Manaphy down, then we're okay. So I think we'll grab these 3. And then we'll use Gather the Crew, and then next turn we have access to start getting rid of some other things. So grab a Ralts and the Zorua. And my opponent most likely will take a prize here, and then we can actually start setting up so that way we can use the high voltage current, potentially set up some prizes, go from there. So I'm not too worried about too much. I mean, if my opponent goes boss here, it'll be a little bit annoying, but it'll at least set up, what we need to. And we can actually put the league headquarters out. That way my opponent can't attack with the Entei as crucially. So there's the retreat going into the Entei. There's fleet-footed for 1. And the Burning Rondo for 180. So, okay, it's actually not looking too bad now. So now we have Zoroark, and thankfully, once my opponent gets to 1 prize, we can actually use the Twilight Inspiration to take our last 2 prizes. So it's not looking too bad for us. So what we can do here, I'm kind of okay with getting rid of this. I think we're just going to full send and go research. And now we have a couple other cards that we can draw. So we'll attach to the Zoroark. And my opponent concedes. So, kind of the pressure base. I think my opponent didn't get the Manaphy down, so they were kind of, stressed on what to do. So that was a quick game 1. Let's get into game 2, see if we can get the same type of setup going. Alrighty, into the second game. Let's see what we can do against my opponent. So again, we do have the option to go first, which is super critical as it lets us get off the pieces that we need. If we are forced to go second, it's not bad, but it does kind of put us a turn behind, and we actually do get to start the Basculin. And this opening hand is looking fantastic. So we can't attack, but we are playing against Lugia, which is going to be actually pretty good for us, as Raichu kind of solidifies the matchup a lot for us. So we'll just go for Nest Ball here. Let's check and see what's prized. So we have a Zoroark prized. We do have a Ralts prized as well. We do have the Raichu in here, which is going to be important. We have all of our Zoroarks. We have the researches. So I think what I'm going to grab here, just to kind of add some extra consistency for our next turn, is we'll grab another Ralts. I think Ralts is going to be beneficial, because my opponent's not going to be taking a knockout next turn. So this means that we can level ball, grab a Curlia, and then we also have access to Gather the Crew, which means that we can put my opponent basically behind. And they are playing colorless, so we do actually have the ability to hit with weakness with the Arcanine as well. So probably the best thing that we could, ask for in this sense. And my opponent just going for Read the Wind, not even discarding an Archeops. So we do get the Zinnia's Resolve as well, which will be helpful in the coming turns. So we can use the Level Ball, grab Curlia, and then Curlia will allow us to discard to draw 2, so we can get rid of the Scovillain, drawing us 2, and we actually get Nest Ball as well as Level Ball. We'll use the second Level Ball here, grab the Curlia. I don't think I'm going to have to use the Nest Ball, just because I can search with the Gather the Crew. So what we'll do here is just get rid of the Nest Ball, draw us 2, and then we can actually use Zinnia's Resolve if we choose to, which can also let us find some other cards, potentially search for next turn. I don't think there's going to be too much that we need to do just yet, so I think what I'm going to do here is we'll just use Gather the Crew, and if my opponent plays more bench Pokemon next turn, then we're in a good spot. We can use the Zinnia, discard 2, and then start to set up from there. So it's not looking too bad. Again, as long as the Raichu comes out at, a good point in time, we'll be a-okay. There's the Lugia. Attaching an energy, there's the Iono. Our hand was looking pretty clunky, so I'm actually quite okay with that. And we are able to draw into an even better hand, as we do have access to Zoroark, we have access to Mezagoza now, we have Research. So quite a few things that we can actually look for. So my opponent flips Tails, and there is a Great Ball. My opponent finally able to get an Archeops. And there's the Ultra Ball. Do they get rid of double Archeops? And they do. So now this means that we're in a pretty good spot. We have access to a lot of damage output potentially next turn. And there's the Mew EX coming down. So if we go Electivire, we do have to be wary of my opponent and possibly using the Electivire against us, with Mew EX being able to copy genome hacking, so it is something to keep in mind. There is the V-Star coming out, so now it's going to be apparent that we get Raichu out. And if we get a knockout here, we are going to put my opponent in a spot where they can draw up to 7 cards, but considering we're only playing 1 prizers, I don't hate the idea of that. There's the Tempest Dive coming down. My opponent gets rid of the Mezagoza, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. So what we can do here is use the Zora, promote it, and now it just comes down to, can we get to where we need to? So the first thing that we'll do, I think I'm going to save my Curlias just in case I find anything else to potentially go off with. So we can discard, draw us a fresh 7, And there is the Electivire as well as Reversal. Electivire will be able to hit 100 and do 50 to each. Or we have access to the Flapple, which actually can one-shot a Lugia. So that's actually super important to utilize here. So we'll get rid of the Flapple so that way we have access to it. We get 2 Zoroarks down. And then we also have access to the Kirlia, which means we can go into the Electivire if we choose to. And we also have the Airzu for next turn. So what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into the Flapple. We are behind on a price, so I'm probably going to use the Reversal now. That way next turn I have access to using the Jet Energies, because if I take 2 here, I'm not going to be behind anymore. So we'll attach the Reversal to Zoroark, put down the League Headquarters, so my opponent's Snorlax costs 1 more. Use that Phantom Transformation. And we're just going to be working on taking prizes this turn in this game. So we can go into the Flapple. I meant to attach the energy beforehand. Oh, that was a misplay. That's a-okay. Okay, you know what? That's fine. It's not the end of the world. For some reason, I was thinking of the old Zoroark where when you would swap something in, you wouldn't discard the cards, that they kept the conditions and everything. So what we're going to have to do is just go into the Zoroark here, go into Flapple. It's not the end of the world. We can actually potentially save ourselves from it. Just because with my opponent possibly going down to 1, it means that we can use the... what is it called? Why can't I think? We can use the Slowbro. That's what it is. So don't make the misplay like that. So that, speaking of Reversal, there's another Reversal, and I'm actually going to keep this Reversal because with my opponent being at 4, we'll be at 4, then they go to 1, so it means that there's some extra cards that we can potentially look for. So what I'm going to do here is just use the Airzu, and we'll get rid of some of the cards that we don't really need anymore. So we can grab these 2, and then we can use the Kirlia. Kirlia will allow us to get rid of the Raichu, and then what we can do is use the Phantom Transformation. Phantom Transformation will allow us to go into the Flapple. We'll go Raichu just to be 100% safe. So there is the Raichu. And we just need a Jet Energy here in order to use the Spark, meaning we can hit 280, take 2 prize cards, and then hopefully start to set up some more from there. Again, we just have to take 2 knockouts, and if my opponent goes to 3 here, and then goes to 2, we're in an okay spot. The only issue is that we did get rid of our Super Rod, so we aren't going to have too much to work with. It's going to be more weary than anything, really. But we do have access to the Slowbro once my opponent finally gets to 2. And we actually might be able to do something interesting. I can't believe I just misplayed that hard. I'm so used to cards like Thornton and Ninja Boy and stuff that it keeps the status conditions and everything, but this literally says you discard all cards. So my opponent Ultra Balling for Drapion, probably just trying to thin some cards, that way they don't see them. And there's the Iono. And we actually have another Super Rod, which is huge. It means that we do have the ability to actually get into some of what we need. I'm probably going to use the Super Rod just to get back some Zoroark pieces, because it is going to be important that we put ourselves in a spot where we can get back what we need. So my opponent going Thumping Snore, and they are asleep. Do they wake up? So we'll go into the Zoroark here. My opponent does not wake up, but we are going to take a knockout here. Potentially, depending on if we get boss or anything special like that. So what we'll do is go Pokemon Headquarters. We'll use the Super Rod. Super Rod will allow us to put back in the Zoroarks, not the Zoroas. Put back the Zoroarks, and then I don't think that there's anything else we need to put back in. I guess we can put back a Curlia just in case we need more draw later, but we'll just put the 2 back. And we can use the Rescue Carrier. Grab the Zoroas. Bench both of those. And then we can Iono. Save a few more cards with Curlia as well. Potentially get some attacks through. So we do hit reversal and we are behind on prizes. So what we can do here is go for the Refinement. And draw us 2. We gain access to Level Ball. So we'll use the Level Ball, grab the Ralt, and then we'll use the other Refinement. I don't think it's going to matter too much what we get rid of here. Let's get rid of these 2. And we could actually go into the Scovillain to take a knockout. So I don't hate doing that. So we'll go here. We'll go into the Scovillain wherever it is right here. It's weird that it has me pick it just to not bring it out. And then what we can do is go for the Super Spicy Breath. 180, taking a prize. And then next turn, my opponent will go to 2. And then if we can take another knockout, then we'll be okay. And the nice thing too is the fact that we did get the Arcanine, which means Arcanine can hit for a good amount of damage. And we will be behind on prizes as well. So as long as we get everything set up how we need to, we'll be okay. The only issue is that we do have the card in deck, which is going to be a little bit risky for us. We do have the Slowbro in case we do have to go that route, but we should be able to kind of dig and find something here. So we'll go into the Zorua. My opponent stays asleep as they do flip 1 heads and 1 tails, and we get a Jet Energy, which is fantastic. So now what we can do is use the Refinement. Hopefully not drawing into the Curlia, because I can search the Curlia here. So we can go into the Curlia. We'll get rid of Iono. I'm not too worried about it now. I think we're in the end game. So we can get rid of the Iono, draw us 2. And then we can also get rid of the Nest Ball. And we do have Boss's Orders next turn for game if we need to. Let's see, we've gone through 2 Jet Energies. I don't think that there's really anything my opponent is going to be able to do. So we can hit 250 with the Flapple. So I think that's what we're going to go for. So we'll go into the Flapple here. And then attach the Jet Energy, and then we can do that 50 times. Meaning we hit 250. And if my opponent takes a prize here with something like... if my opponent goes into Mew and doesn't KO this Flapple, Flapple can KO the Mew. If my opponent KOs Zoroark or KOs the Flapple, then we have Zoroark, which can go into the Flapple again. Or we have the ability to potentially go into something like the Slowbro. So we're going to see our whole deck next turn. So it's all about making sure that we can actually get those last few prizes out. And there's a Tails on Capturing Aroma. So my opponent can grab a basic. And they grab the Drapion. And, you know, as you can see, you're not super punished if you make a small misplay like this with this deck. It was a little bit unfortunate, but it's definitely not the end of the world. My opponent going into Collapsed. There's a Jet Energy going on to the Snorlax. My opponent's probably going to go for a Iono potentially. They are down 2 Ionos, so I'm not too sure if they're going to be able to, do too much with it, but it's not the end of the world. There's the Iono, and the nice thing is that with us drawing 2, we should be A-okay. And speaking of, we are able to actually use the Slowbro next turn, because we can Kirlia it away, and our opponent will have 1 prize card, and we can just take 2, put ourselves in the winning spot, and we are going to be behind on prizes as well. So, a true showcase of kind of how this Lugia matchup goes. So we will promote the Zoroark. And speaking of reversals, there's another. So we'll discard the Slowbro. Use the Phantom Transformation, go into the Slowbro. We can find it. Again, forcing us to grab it. So we'll go into the Slowbro, attach the reversal, and then we can use the Twilight Inspiration, taking 2 prize cards. And with that, we are able to win the game. So that was actually kind of a super fun game. I actually really enjoyed that. Despite the small misplay in the beginning, always remember that Zoroark discards the energy. It's not just a full-on swap. I forgot about that in the moment, but I think overall it was pretty good. It was pretty fun. Definitely is nice to be able to hit weakness on everything, and I think that being able to kind of showcase that really helps the deck. I'm not too sure how much it improves with 151, but it is definitely something to keep in mind. But if you guys did enjoy today's video, do me a favor, smash the like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Otherwise, I will catch you guys in tomorrow's video. Later.